Hey friends, it's Loree with the blog wagonwheelhomestead.com. I'm here today to show you how I preserve carrots. One of our favorite things in our homestead pantry that we eat every year is these glazed carrots. They're so good. They're made with a glaze that's made out of orange juice and brown sugar, and they are so good. My kids usually eat 2 or 3 jars in a sitting, so we put a lot of these in the pantry every year. And then I'm also going to show you how to can some plain carrots. Those are nice to have for roasts or different things like that. And so I'm going to show you how to preserve carrots. Now, if I had a root cellar, I would take a bunch of these carrots that we grew in our garden and I would pack them in sand, and they would keep all winter long in our root cellar. But since I don't have that done yet, I do save some in the fridge for fresh eating. You can also save some in the garden, in the ground, and I'll be talking to you a little bit about that also. But I just wanted to be sure that I show you how to preserve carrots. So let's get started. Well, it's the end of September and it is time to harvest carrots. We've just let them grow after we weeded them, and just now we're getting to where we're going to put them up. And look at, some of them are so big. So the kids have been digging them up this morning. We have a tub here full, and we're going to scrub them up and make glazed carrots and then some plain carrots. Let me see. Hold it up in your hand. Let me see. Wow, that is awesome. So I think the challenge with these carrots is going to be fitting them in the jars. Sometimes they're smaller, and you have to, yeah, you're going to have to slice them in half, aren't we? Anyway, so we are busy clearing out the garden, and it's time to do the carrots. It's one of our last things before we will do meat and broth and tallow later this year. And we're going to take you along and show you how we can our carrots. The other thing that we're going to do with the last part of this bed is, when it's a little closer to frost, we're going to cut the tops off, probably with either a weed eater or something like that, and then we're going to put about a foot of leaves or hay or something on top to mulch it down. And we're also going to put a tarp over the top and secure it, and then we'll have these to eat out of the ground all winter long. That will keep them from freezing. Even though the ground freezes solid, that will keep them from freezing because of keeping the moisture out of them with the tarp over the top. So anyway, we'll try to show you snippets of that along the way, but for today we're headed into canned carrots. All right, I've got my carrot scrubbing crew. So we just use scrub brushes, and we've just filled this lick tub up with water. We have it just sitting on another lick tub. We just scrub them really, really good. Every once in a while, we'll put more water in there and, let it drain, some of it drain over the edge. And then we're just putting them down here in this bucket. And once they're all scrubbed, then I'll go through and cut the tops off and cut them in half if needed. And we'll put them into some wide mouth. That usually works best, some wide mouth jars. And then we'll put the sweet brine over the glazed carrots, and then just hot water and salt over the regular carrots. And then carrots, because they are a low acid food, have to be pressure canned. That's not hard. I'll show you how that works. So we'll be running these through the pressure canner, and then it'll be time for them to go on the shelf. Do you guys like these carrots?
Yeah.
Are they one of your favorite things out of the pantry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Them and pickles.
Them and the pickles, yeah. Yeah, if I send them down to get, like, if I'll say, go get a couple jars of something to go with our dinner, so we have a little more to eat, they'll either come back with pickled beets, sweet dill pickles, or glazed carrots. Like, those are the top 3 for sure. Okay, so the brine for these carrots, or the glaze, if you will, because we're making glazed carrots, is made out of orange juice, brown sugar, and water. That may seem odd to you. Trust me, they're the best thing since sliced bread. They're so good. So it's 2 parts water and 2 parts brown sugar and 1 part orange juice. So one thing, if you're making a small batch, it's best if you pack your jars full of carrots, and then you can figure about probably 1.5 to 2 cups per jar that you're going to need of the glaze. So then you can mix up your glaze and you won't have too much. I know that we're doing a whole bunch of carrots and I want to get my canner started, so I'm going to mix up a big batch of glaze, and then towards the end I will estimate how many jars we have left once we run out of this glaze, and then I'll make, enough so that we don't end up with too much, hopefully. So I'm going to start with the 8 cups. I'm going to make 8 batches. So 8 cups of orange juice. And this is just orange juice concentrate that I mixed up. Okay, I just mixed it up in this pot. And I'm gonna add a whole big bag of brown sugar. So 7 pounds of brown sugar. And then 16 cups of water. And I'm gonna heat this up on the stove. You obviously want this sugar to dissolve. Get it simmering, and then we're gonna pack the carrots into jars, pour it over the top, put the lids on, and run them through the pressure canner. And we'll have an amazing, yummy side dish that we will enjoy all winter long. All right, I've got my big bowl of scrubbed carrots from the kids here. And like I said, it works best to use wide mouth jars. I'm getting to the end of my jars. It's almost the end of canning season here. So I'm gonna use some of these 3-cup jars. They're also wide mouth. And you won't be able to fit as much in them, but it's better than nothing. I gotta save some of these for canning meat this fall. So anyway, I just stick the jar in here and then I usually cut it off. So I've just got a cutting board here. And I just cut it off and then throw the piece in the bottom. You want it to fit, and you don't want the carrots obviously sticking above the jar. The goal is to have them about a 1/2 inch below the top of the jar because you want a little bit of head space. I mean, you're only gonna put the water or the glaze in up until a 1/2 inch below, and it's okay if the carrot sticks above that just a tiny little bit. You know, you don't have to get it exact, but you definitely don't want the carrot sticking up and pushing on the lid because you want the lid to be able to seal. So that's what I do, and it's just sort of like a puzzle. Some of these big carrots. So last year we did 107 quarts, and it took us all day to scrub them because a lot of them were small. They fit in the jars well, but yeah, it took all day and then all night to can them. So because I had to run them through my canner. I only have 1 pressure canner, so I had to just do them 7 jars at a time. But it's just like a puzzle. So you just try to fit in as many as you can into every single jar. And so, you know, I like to stick the point down like this and kind of wiggle stuff around, try to fill in all the little holes and get as many in there as possible. And then we just pour the hot glaze over the top, stick them in the pressure canner. So it's not hard, it's just a process. It kind of reminds me of freezing corn. It's like, you know, it's a big project. It's like all day, that's all you're gonna be doing is carrots. But then it's all done for the whole year. It's not like tomatoes where you can them every week. And carrots are sweeter if they get a frost. Carrots can grow when it's pretty cold. But I'm ready to start tearing out some of the garden, and so I'm gonna just get these canned up and they're gonna be just fine. And then of course we'll start eating on a lot of them also, the ones that are left in the garden. And this one needs scrubbed better. When the kids are doing the scrubbing, sometimes you have to do a little bit of inspecting. And for some of these, I'm gonna actually split them in half because they'll fit down in my jar a little better. I planted these really early this spring, and I used carrot seed tape so I didn't have to thin them. And so they're nice and big. Like they didn't have to compete with each other because they were nicely spaced. So they grew really nice, and that's gonna make this project quicker. All right, I'm gonna keep stuff in these jars. I'll bring you back and show you putting the glaze on them and getting them in the canner. All right, so this is what the glaze looks like when it's been simmered. So we're gonna stick it over the top of these carrots. And again, just to within a 1/2 inch of the top of the jar. and I want to get the first 7 jars in my canner while I finish filling jars. So I'm just going to wipe the rim of the jar, make sure there's nothing sticky on it, using my favorite 4 jars canning lids. I always get the best seal rate from those, and I'll put a link to them in the description box below. See, that one I've got a carrot that's sticking up a little too far, so I may have to trim him with a knife. Let me see. So I want to make sure that it can seal all the way down. So I'm just gonna put these on, put the rings on, stick them in the canner and turn it on, and I'll show you how I bring it up to pressure. All right, so I have them in the canner. You don't need the water to be very high. 4 or 5 inches is plenty for pressure canning, because it's the steam that's going to actually create the pressure. And so I've got it turned on. We're going to bring it up to pressure, which means there's going to be, these little things are going to seal. You're not going to be able to open it. It's got a safety feature on it. This is going to be spewing out steam. And then we're going to put my little weight on at 10 pounds. This little weight, see, it has 5, 10, and 15 pounds. Okay, we're gonna, different canners will be different, so read your instructions, okay? But sometimes it's a gauge, right, that goes up to 10 pounds. So the recipe will tell you how much pressure for how long to process, whatever it is you're canning. So follow your recipe. So this is 10 pounds of pressure for 30 minutes. So when this steam is coming out of here, I'm gonna stick this on here. Okay, leave it at 10 pounds, and then I'll turn it down, and I want this to just jiggle, and I'll show you that, okay? So I want it to just jiggle a little bit. I don't want it like spewing steam, because that means it's a little too hot. Get it kind of set for 30 minutes, and then turn it off and let it depressurize. So just let it go all the way until it's, cooled off, and then we'll open it up and start the next batch. So it's not hard. It's just, a process. You just have to kind of babysit it. Make sure it stays about 10 pounds of pressure. So, okay, and you can see there's steam coming out the top. So I'm going to put this on here at 10 pounds pressure, and this is going to allow it to build to 10 pounds, and then it's going to start to jiggle, and that's when we'll start to turn it down. You want it to jiggle several times a minute, and that will tell me that it's at 10 pounds pressure, and we'll set our timer for 30 minutes. This means that your canner is at the proper pressure, if you have one like this, because it just jiggles every few seconds, which means it's releasing just a little bit of pressure, but it's staying right at the 10 pounds. And so we set our timer, and we'll let it stay at this temperature for 30 minutes. All right, so we ended up with 51 quarts of carrots. Now again, or 51 jars. Some of them are these smaller, three cup quart jars. So they're the old-fashioned freezer jars. It was what they used to be used for anyway. So there's probably not exactly 51 quarts, but there's 51 jars. Anyway, so what I'm gonna do now is just take the rings off. They've all sealed. Take the rings off, and then we're gonna wash them, because the outside is a little sticky, because sometimes it bubbles out just a little bit on the top. It's better if they don't bubble out, but if they do, you can just wash the outside and it's gonna be just fine. So the other thing that I wanted to show you is you can also slice the carrots and make like little carrot coins, if you will, instead of stuffing them in whole. So my husband did these, and that's a different way of doing it also. And what I forgot to show you, because we got busy canning and glazing carrots, I forgot to show you how to do plain carrots, but I'm just going to tell you because it's really simple. So you're going to pack the raw carrots into the jar just the same way. You're going to put a tablespoon of salt in the top, and then you're going to pour boiling water over the top of the jar, and then put the lid on and pressure can it for the same amount of time. So super simple, not hard to do. And then you can, I don't do a lot of plain carrots because we don't love plain carrots, especially if we have these, the option of these, but I like to have a few in the pantry. So anyway, that's how you preserve carrots by canning. And if you want to know more about growing, preserving, cooking from scratch, sourdough home dairy, please hit that like and subscribe button, as that's what we're talking about here. We spend less than $1,000 a year on food from the grocery store for our family of 7. So it can be done, and that's what we're here to show you how to do. Thanks for coming along today, and we will see you in the next video.